In the summer heat of July 1977, the quiet suburban streets of Secane, Pennsylvania, held a familiar promise of teenage freedom. For 17-year-old Cheryl Akavone, a simple walk to a friend's house was a routine part of her day. But on July 12th, that ordinary journey ended abruptly as Cheryl vanished without a trace, leaving behind a family desperate for answers and a mystery steeped in whispers of dark alliances and dangerous connections. This is the enduring and unsettling story of Cheryl Akavone. Cheryl was born on April 22, 1960, was 17 years old at the time of her disappearance. A white female with blonde hair and green eyes, she stood 5 feet 8 inches tall and weighed approximately 120 pounds, while her full name was Cheryl Akavone. She often went by Cheryl and Moser. She resided on Chipmunk Lane in Secane, Pennsylvania. According to her mother, Cheryl was going through a rebellious phase at the time of her disappearance and had run away from home several times in the past. However, a crucial detail separated this disappearance from the others. In all previous instances, Cheryl would always call home to let her family know she was okay. After July 1977, that familiar reassuring call never came. She was never heard from again. On July 12, 1977, Cheryl Akavone was last seen walking to a friend's house in her hometown of Secane, Pennsylvania. It was a route she likely knew well, a common teenage activity. However, Cheryl never arrived at her friend's house as expected, and she has not been seen since that day. Following Cheryl's vanishing, authorities began receiving disturbing tips suggesting she had been murdered by members of a motorcycle gang and her body dumped in Tinnicum Marsh. This grim possibility was given weight by a broader, unsettling pattern in the region during the mid-1970s. 6 other local girls, aged between 15 and 19, had also been murdered, and some of their remains were indeed found in the very same marsh. All of these victims reportedly had ties to biker gangs. While Cheryl didn't have direct, confirmed ties to any specific motorcycle clubs herself, her connections to the biker world were undeniable. At the time of her disappearance, she was dating 25-year-old David Thompson. It's believed she may have even been on her way to see him the night she vanished. Although Thompson was not a recognized motorcycle gang member, his association with this dangerous subculture was clear. In 1978, just a year after Cheryl disappeared, David Thompson was convicted of conspiracy and assault in connection with the fatal beating of a member of the Warlocks Motorcycle Club. He was sentenced to 6 to 23 months in prison. His current whereabouts are unknown. Further solidifying the biker connection, one of Cheryl's friends was a longtime associate of another notorious biker gang, the Pagans. These indirect, yet significant, links raised serious concerns for investigators, suggesting Cheryl may have inadvertently stepped into a world far more dangerous than she realized. 48 years have passed since Cheryl Akavone walked away from her home in Secane. The absence of any further contact, coupled with the alarming tips and the violent underworld connections, has led authorities to suspect foul play. There has been no sign of Cheryl since that summer day in 1977. No new leads that have brought her family any closer to understanding what truly happened. Her case remains tragically unsolved, a cold file haunted by the specter of a missing girl caught in a web of violence and silence, leaving her loved ones to wonder if the answers lie buried somewhere in the murky depths of the Tinnicum Marsh, or hidden in the memory of someone who knows more than they've ever revealed. If you have any information regarding the disappearance of Cheryl Akavone, please contact the Pennsylvania State Police or the Delaware County District Attorney's Office.
Hey, this is Tony from the Cold Case Project, where we focus on unsolved cases across the United States. Our mission is to bring attention to these unresolved mysteries that need your help. All the information we cover in these cases is readily available on the internet, but we rewrite and repurpose it for the purpose of these videos. Our goal is to spread the word about the thousands of unsolved cold cases still out there. Thank you for watching. If you want to help shed light on these cases, make sure to like and subscribe for more content. Your support can make a difference.
Rell Jeter was born on August 22, 1943. In the summer of 2003, he was 59 years old, a Caucasian male with graying sandy blonde, shoulder-length hair, and blue eyes. Standing at 5 feet 8 inches and weighing 230 pounds, he wore a short grayish beard and black plastic-framed reading glasses. Distinguishing marks included a small, flesh-colored mole on his right cheek and a missing upper left canine tooth. He was last seen wearing a gold-tone watch on his right wrist. Rell Jeter was largely described as a loner. He rarely traveled, preferring the quiet confines of his home on Buck Road in McConnellsburg. His constant companion was his Jack Russell Terrier, Bubba, a dog he took with him almost everywhere. His family confirmed they would have found it highly uncharacteristic for Rell to leave the area without Bubba, or at least making arrangements for the animal's care. Rell had been divorced for 30 years and had 2 children, though they were not close to him. He maintained contact with his sister through weekly telephone calls. At the time of his disappearance, his family stated that nothing seemed amiss in his life. He had no known enemies, no significant debts, and no pressing medical problems. He was even looking forward to attending a friend's crab feast on July 19th, just days after he vanished. Rell Jeter was last seen between 1 o'clock and 2 p.m. on Monday, July 14, 2003. He was at the Lincoln Way Market, a butcher shop located in the vicinity of Lincoln Way and South 2nd Street in McConnellsburg, Pennsylvania. He made a simple purchase, 2 steaks, one for himself and one for his beloved dog, Bubba. After his purchase, he left the shop, driving alone in his new Chrysler PT Cruiser. He was never seen or heard from again. Later, Rell's new Chrysler PT Cruiser was found parked at his home on Buck Road, along with his 3 other vehicles. This indicated he had made it home, or at least his car had. When Rell's home was checked, it presented a puzzling scene. There were no signs of forced entry, suggesting that whoever entered the house, or if Rell himself had been there, did so without breaking in. However, the front door to the residence was ajar, and the windows were also open, details that hinted at an abrupt departure rather than a planned one. Perhaps the most unsettling discovery was Bubba, his faithful Jack Russell Terrier. The dog, usually glued to Rell's side, was found running loose outside the house. This was a significant red flag for his family, as Rell's bond with Bubba was profound, and he would never intentionally leave the dog unattended or without care for an extended period. Inside the residence, there was no sign of a struggle, lending to the impression that Rell had left with the intent to return very soon. His cellular phone, which he always carried with him, was found inside the house, another piece of evidence suggesting he hadn't planned to leave for long, or at all. Years after Rell's disappearance, in April 2008, a major development occurred that cast a dark shadow over his vanishing. One of Rell's neighbors, Kenneth Vernon Rouser, his son, Gregory Chip Rouser, and a woman named Mildred Midge Tressler were charged in an unrelated murder-for-hire case. Following their arrest, the Rousers reportedly alluded to the possible location of Rell Jeter's remains. However, they did not directly implicate themselves in his disappearance, leaving a tantalizing but inconclusive lead. As a result of this information, police conducted a search on a property located near Rell's home. Despite extensive efforts, no evidence was found that could link them to Rell or confirm the location of his remains. It was also noted that prior to his disappearance, Rell had reportedly left his ATV with the Rousers for repairs, establishing a connection between them. To this day, no one has been charged in Rell Jeter's disappearance, and it remains unclear whether Kenneth and Gregory Rouser were involved in his fate. Rell Jeter never showed up for the crab feast on July 19th, and the weekly phone calls to his sister ceased. His case remains unsolved, a haunting mystery of a man who seemingly vanished from his quiet life, leaving behind a devoted pet, an open door, and a community with more questions than answers. If you have any information regarding the disappearance of Rell Jeter, please contact the Pennsylvania State Police at 717-485-3183. Sabrina May Kaylor was born on June 20th, 1982. In June 2002, she had just turned 20 years old. She was described as having dark blonde, short hair, blue eyes, standing 5 feet 2 inches tall, and weighing about 130 pounds. She had pierced ears and braces on her teeth. Sabrina lived in Erie, Pennsylvania, with her mother, Susan Berg, and her live-in boyfriend, Chris Lee. She was the youngest of 7 blended family siblings, born to Susan and Richard Kaylor, who had divorced in 1998. Susan describes her daughter Sabrina as developmentally delayed with the mental faculties of a 14-year-old, caused by a lack of oxygen to her brain at birth during a difficult resuscitation. Despite this, Sabrina had graduated from East High School in 2001 after taking special education classes, a source of great pride for her. Her family universally described Sabrina as a kind, accepting, unjudgmental, and very friendly young woman. Almost friendly to a fault, her father noted. This made her easy to take advantage of, as she was very trusting and naive, often talking to anyone, even strangers. She was very close with both her mother and her father, who also lived in Erie and maintained regular, daily contact with them and Chris. She loved children and enjoyed helping out at a local preschool. A devout individual, Sabrina read the Bible nightly and was very godly. At the time of her disappearance, she was not working, having just graduated, and her mother was helping her explore options for higher education. Her relationship with Chris, whom she had met on Valentine's Day, was good, and he had just moved in with her and Susan in May. On Monday, June 24th, 2002, Sabrina was last seen outside her home in the 12,200 block of East 3rd Street near Lighthouse Street in Erie. She was excited to go swimming at a lake in western Erie County. She was wearing a 2-piece bathing suit and blue and white sneakers. A neighbor witnessed Sabrina getting into a 1991 Chevy Blazer driven by David Sherman Heck, a 26-year-old distant cousin of her boyfriend, Chris. Sabrina knew David. Chris Lee had left the house that morning for an appointment, telling Sabrina he'd be home around 11 a.m. Susan, Sabrina's mother, had also left for work before Sabrina woke up, but they spoke on the phone around 11 a.m. about Sabrina doing laundry. When Chris returned home after 11 o'clock, Sabrina was gone, but she had left a note saying she was going swimming with David Heck and would be home around 4 p.m. Chris later stated he didn't think anything of it, assuming David and his girlfriend Ashley had shown up to invite him and Sabrina swimming, as the two couples had gone together several times before. This time, however, Sabrina never came home. The initial hours turned into days of growing concern for Sabrina's family. Her father stated it was totally unlike Sabrina to be out of touch with her family. Unable to locate her or hear from her, they reported Sabrina missing on Wednesday, June 26th. An official missing persons bulletin was issued, and Erie detectives began an active search. Investigators immediately focused on David Sherman Heck, the last person known to be with Sabrina. Police tried to contact David, but he would initially only speak to them by phone, refusing to disclose his location. It was later revealed he was avoiding police because he was wanted for a parole violation stemming from an indecent assault conviction involving 2 13-year-old girls in September 2000. Over the phone, David told police he was alone when he picked up Sabrina. He claimed they went to a convenience store for soda and Kit Kats, then went swimming. Afterwards, he stated Sabrina wanted to see a movie, so he dropped her off at the West Erie Plaza movie theater and gave her $10 for the movie and bus fare home. He claimed he hadn't seen her since. The movie David initially said Sabrina wanted to see was Lilo and Stitch. However, when David later spoke to Chris Lee face-to-face on Tuesday, the day after Sabrina vanished, he reiterated his story but changed the movie title to Panic Room, a thriller also playing at the plaza. Sabrina's family immediately found this suspicious. Sabrina wouldn't go to the movies alone, and certainly wouldn't choose a thriller like Panic Room over a G-rated film like Spirit, which she had recently enjoyed. Investigators were unable to find anyone who saw Sabrina at West Erie Plaza that day, casting serious doubt on Kek's account. We feel very confident with the information we found that she was not present at the movie theater, Captain James Skindell of Erie's Criminal Investigation Division later stated. On Saturday, June 29th, at 2:30 a.m., patrolmen arrested David Kek on East 10th Street for his parole violation. Police were keen to interrogate him about Sabrina, given his criminal record and her disappearance after being last seen with him. David admitted to taking Sabrina swimming on Monday, but provided no further details. Simultaneously, a massive search operation was launched in western Erie County, involving hundreds of law enforcement officers from the Erie Police, FBI, Pennsylvania State Police, Erie County Sheriff's Department, and even a New York State Police dog team. The searches continued for weeks, utilizing helicopters, ATVs, and search dogs, covering hundreds of acres of hilly, heavily wooded terrain. A crucial piece of information emerged. An unnamed witness claimed Sabrina had possibly been seen swimming with others at the Elk Creek access area on the day she was last seen. Police concentrated search efforts there, but came up empty. They also searched a 30-acre farm off Middle Road in Fairview Township that was reportedly a subject of another sighting, involving machetes to cut through dense overgrowth. 50 miles of Lake Erie shoreline were searched, and scuba divers scoured 2 ponds. Corporal Mark Zelaleski called it one of the most intensive searches in Erie County for a missing person. During this period, details about David Kek's behavior just before Sabrina's disappearance came to light. Early on June 23rd, the day before Sabrina vanished, David had a violent altercation with his then-girlfriend, Ashley Peters. Witnesses claimed Kek tried to run over Ashley and 4 others with his truck, attempting to force Ashley into his vehicle and verbally abusing her. Police noted tire tracks in the lawn as evidence. Then, on June 24th, David picked up Sabrina to go swimming. He later admitted that Ashley and a group of people showed up at Egley Park while he and Sabrina were swimming, leading to a confrontation. David called the state police from a nearby Tasty Twist ice cream stand, and a state trooper met him and Sabrina there, becoming the last confirmed person to see Sabrina besides David Kek. The trooper then drove off to speak with Ashley at the park. Charges against David for the June 23rd incident included recklessly endangering another person, disorderly conduct, harassment, criminal mischief, and terroristic threats. As the searches wound down, David Kek remained jailed on his parole violation. He lawyered up and refused to discuss Sabrina's case any further, also refusing to take a polygraph test. FBI agents meticulously searched his vehicle for 8 hours and his parents' home, but no publicly released information indicated any significant finds regarding Sabrina. Later, in August, police obtained a search warrant for Kek to take his blood for comparison to blood found in the search for Sabrina, but details about the blood's location were withheld. David, however, told reporters police had seized a sleeping bag from his truck with his recent girlfriend's blood on it. David Kek continued to face other criminal charges, eventually being found guilty of burglary, conspiracy, and theft in September 2002. He was also found guilty of charges stemming from his attack on Ashley Peters, receiving a year's probation. He later returned to prison for writing a bad check. Despite his continued legal troubles, David maintained his innocence regarding Sabrina, telling the media, "I feel like they are thinking it's me, but it's not me. They need to start looking at other people like Ashley or Chris. I feel like I got convicted of something I didn't do. I'm being set up. I'm being framed. It's getting pretty crazy. Maybe she met someone else. Maybe she was abducted. I'm just a normal guy getting all this stuff put on me." Sabrina's boyfriend, Chris Lee, was also questioned repeatedly by police and agreed to take a polygraph, which he said he failed due to nervousness. However, Sabrina's mother stated she does not believe Chris was involved, and police do not consider him a suspect. Captain James Skindell of the Erie Police stated, "We think, and everyone has led us to believe, that if she was just missing, she would have called home or made some attempt to get in touch with her family." The police openly stated they considered David Kek a subject of the investigation and believe he has vital information. In 2009, Sabrina's mother, Susan, made the difficult decision to have her daughter declared legally deceased. She hoped this step might encourage someone to come forward with information about Sabrina's body and provide some measure of closure. The not knowing is the hardest thing to take, Susan said. Her brother, Stephen, echoed this, stating, "Not knowing exactly what happened is worse than actually finding that she would be easier to know that she is dead and we could put it to rest and we could really grieve." Sabrina Kaylor's case remains open. Her DNA and dental records have been entered into national databases, and age-progressed photos circulate, clinging to the hope that one day, the truth of what happened to the kind and trusting Bree will finally emerge from the shadows of Erie County. If you have any information regarding the disappearance of Sabrina Kaylor, please contact the Pennsylvania State Police or the Erie Bureau of Police. In the sprawling suburbs of West Mifflin, Pennsylvania, where the rhythms of everyday life often mask hidden currents, a seemingly innocent promise of adventure shattered a family's peace. On a brisk Saturday in March, a 19-year-old girl, full of youthful excitement for a trip to Florida, stepped into a red Ford Explorer and vanished. Her disappearance, shrouded in conflicting stories and disturbing discoveries, has haunted her loved ones for over a decade, leaving behind a chilling trail of unanswered questions and a suspect who refuses to speak. This is the infuriating and heartbreaking story of Olivia "Liv" Kale. Kale, known to her family and friends as Liv, was born on April 18, 1991. In March 2011, she was 19 years old, a young woman with blonde hair and hazel eyes. Standing 5 feet 1 inch and weighing 110 pounds, she had a tattoo of a blue lily with swirls on her right hip. Her loved ones described her as a normal, happy teenager, the youngest of 5 children, full of life and looking forward to the future. Despite recently navigating some challenging times, her father's passing and the breakup with a long-term boyfriend, Liv had found new excitement. She had moved into a new apartment with a roommate and was dating Alexander P. Lorenzi. On March 5, 2011, Liv was last seen leaving her brother's home in the 500 block of Edgewood Avenue in West Mifflin, Pennsylvania. She departed with her boyfriend, Alexander Lorenzi, excitedly telling her family they were embarking on a trip to Florida together. She had packed some bags with clothing and shoes, reportedly stating she wasn't paying for anything for the trip, a detail that added to her excitement. They drove off in Lorenzi's red Ford Explorer, identifiable by its Pittsburgh Steelers emblem. Her family had no reason to suspect this innocent departure would be the last time they ever saw her. Almost immediately after her departure, Liv's family grew concerned. Her cellular phone had been shut off since March 5th, with all calls going straight to voicemail. While they initially hoped she was simply living it up in Florida, her silence was uncharacteristic. Liv had always maintained contact, even calling her brother upon landing during a previous trip to Miami in late February, just days before this second supposed journey. This time there was nothing. The family's concern turned into full-blown panic when Alexander Lorenzi reappeared in Pittsburgh on March 15th or 16th without Liv. Confronted by Liv's distraught family about her whereabouts, Lorenzi offered not one, but several conflicting explanations. At one point, he claimed she was still down in Florida. At another, he stated he had dropped her off in Mount Washington, Pennsylvania, where she had been living with a roommate prior to her disappearance. Within days of Lorenzi's return, on March 19th, Liv's brother and sister officially reported her missing. From the outset of the investigation, Alexander Lorenzi proved to be uncooperative, refusing to answer police questions and referring them to an attorney. Police, reviewing his phone records, confirmed Lorenzi had been in Florida from March 9th to the 15th, but found no proof whatsoever that Liv had accompanied him, or even left Pennsylvania. The investigation into Liv's disappearance quickly centered on Alexander Lorenzi, given his conflicting stories and evasiveness. Lorenzi was known to be a frequent traveler, often renting cars or taking flights for out-of-state trips. He also had a documented criminal record, with previous charges including theft and assault. Following Liv's disappearance, police obtained search warrants for Lorenzi's vehicles and his home in the 3300 block of Oregon Street. During multiple searches, investigators made several disturbing discoveries that pointed to a much darker scenario than a simple missing person case. Inside his home, police found Liv's pink bag with her clothes neatly folded inside. This directly contradicted Lorenzi's claims that she was either still in Florida or had been dropped off at her apartment in Mount Washington. If she was there, why was her bag still with him? Gun shells, a stolen handgun, and another weapon described as an assault weapon. A sheet with what authorities described as what looked like blood on it. Marijuana and cocaine. As a direct result of these finds, Lorenzi was arrested on drug charges. Prosecutors attempted to have him held on high bail, arguing that he was a person of interest in Liv's disappearance, but the judge reportedly denied this request, stating the bail was only related to the drug charges. Liv's ex-boyfriend was also interviewed by authorities, but was ruled out as a suspect, being arrested only for a probation violation unrelated to her case. The troubling revelations about Alexander Lorenzi continued in the months following Liv's disappearance. By August 2011, he was already dating another woman. In a horrific turn, Lorenzi was allegedly accused of beating his new girlfriend's dog to death. When police arrived to arrest him for this charge, he allegedly assaulted a police officer. During this subsequent arrest, authorities also discovered more cocaine and $6,000 in cash at his home, leading to further charges. These incidents painted a picture of a violent and volatile individual involved in criminal activities, including drug dealing. Despite the mounting evidence of his troubling behavior, Alexander Lorenzi continued to refuse to cooperate with the police regarding Liv's whereabouts. Approximately a year after Liv vanished, her family held a vigil in her memory. Alexander Lorenzi was conspicuously absent, and his family, with the exception of his mother, also did not attend or reach out to Liv's grieving family. Lorenzi's mother, Jeannie Lorenzi, did show up, but purposefully refrained from participating in the vigil, staying outside with members of the media. She publicly professed her son's innocence, stating, "My son has never been charged, never been arrested, and nothing whatsoever to do with this." Her refusal to offer any words of sympathy or comfort to Liv's mother, Christine, was perceived as profoundly cold-hearted by Liv's family and many observers. In a baffling twist, a police officer, Michael Johns, came under investigation in August 2011 for prostitution allegations. During that investigation, a keychain with Liv's name on it was found inside a vehicle Officer Johns had rented. Johns, through his attorney, denied knowing Liv or having any explanation for how her keychain ended up in his car. While suspicious, the connection remains unclarified. However, this detail, combined with Lorenzi's alleged drug involvement, led police and the FBI to consider the possibility that Liv might have been a victim of human trafficking. As of 2023, 12 years after her disappearance, police stated they still do not believe Liv ever made it to Florida. Alexander Lorenzi continues to refuse to cooperate with the investigation, despite authorities openly stating they would like to speak with him and believe they are so close to closing the case, needing only one, maybe two more pieces of this puzzle. Police also revealed they had searched the area where Liv's phone last pinged, describing it as looking for a needle in a haystack. Olivia Kale would be 32 years old today, having been missing for 13 years. Her family continues to hold out hope that she is alive, and if not, that her remains can be brought home for proper burial. The profound pain of not knowing her fate, compounded by the horrifying possibility of trafficking, weighs heavily on them. They urge anyone with information, no matter how small, to come forward. If you have any information regarding the disappearance of Olivia Kale, please call the Allegheny County Police Department at 412-473-3000. You can also follow and share information on the Facebook groups Break the Silence for Olivia Kale and Missing Olivia Christine Kale. Robert Kek was born on April 18, 1963. In the summer of 1979, he was 16 years old a Caucasian male with blonde hair and hazel eyes. Standing at 5 feet 7 inches and weighing approximately 140 pounds, he had a distinguishing mole on the right side of his face and a small scar on his right cheek, just below his eye. On the day he disappeared, he was wearing a blue shirt with the words "Beach Bum" on it, cut-off jean shorts, tan shoes with crepe soles, and a silver chain adorned with a white cross. Robert was a sophomore at Southern Lehigh High School, where his grades were average, typical of a teenager balancing academics with the pull of summer. By all accounts, Robert was a normal, well-adjusted kid with a good relationship with his family. He was known for keeping his parents informed of his whereabouts, a responsible trait for a young man without a driver's license. In fact, he didn't even have a learner's permit, relying on friends for rides or simply walking to his destinations. Despite living in a rural area, Robert harbored a quiet fear of being alone outside after sunset, particularly in winter when he would trap muskrats, but was too afraid to check his traps by himself. This detail highlights a cautious, perhaps sensitive, side to his personality. At the time of his disappearance, there was nothing amiss in his life that would suggest he would willingly run away. On the contrary, he had something exciting to look forward to: his sister's upcoming wedding. The last confirmed sighting of Robert Kek occurred on Saturday, June 30th, 1979. It was a bright afternoon. Robert departed from his family's residence near Coopersburg, Pennsylvania. His plan was straightforward: a walk to his girlfriend's house, located approximately 2 miles from his home. He was last seen walking down Coopersburg Road, heading toward the town of Coopersburg at precisely 1 p.m. that day. Before he left, Robert had a brief conversation with his mother, mentioning that he expected to catch a ride with someone later in the day. This was a common occurrence for him, given his lack of a driver's license. He wasn't carrying any money when he left, leaving a small amount of cash behind in his room, another detail that argued against him leaving voluntarily, as runaways typically take what funds they have. Robert never arrived at his girlfriend's house. He was never heard from again. In the wake of his disappearance, authorities conducted an investigation, reaching out to many residents who lived along the 2-mile route Robert would have taken. They interviewed people in the homes and businesses lining Coopersburg Road, hoping someone might have seen him after 1 p.m. or offered him a ride. Unfortunately, every person contacted reported that they had not seen Robert Kek that day. The path he took, a route familiar to him, yielded no witnesses to his final moments. Despite extensive efforts and the passage of decades, no hard evidence of foul play has ever been discovered in Robert Kek's case. Yet, due to the complete lack of any other supporting theory for his vanishing, his case is officially classified as a possible non-family abduction. This classification reflects the chilling reality that a seemingly ordinary walk to a girlfriend's house could have been interrupted by an unforeseen and malevolent force. Robert had no history as a runaway, no significant problems at home or school, and a clear reason to stay: his sister's upcoming wedding. His cautious nature, his habit of communicating his whereabouts, and the fact that he left without money all point away from a voluntary departure. The lack of any trace of him along a well-traveled route, coupled with the absence of his arrival at his intended destination, suggests that he encountered something or someone unforeseen and dangerous. For over 4 decades, his family has lived with the agony of not knowing what happened to their 16-year-old son, brother, and friend. The quiet roads of Coopersburg still hold the secret of that summer day in 1979, waiting for any piece of information that might finally explain the unseen walk that took Robert Kek away forever. If you have any information regarding the disappearance of Robert Kek, please contact the Pennsylvania State Police or your local law enforcement.